Hey guys, today's video is on Tana Mongeau and her recent podcast called Cancelled. For obvious reasons, it's called Cancelled because it's Tana Mongeau. And her first episode is out and people are already saying, like, when she announced that she'll be having a podcast, a lot of people were basically just like, she's probably not going to keep this going for a while. Like, we're probably going to have to wait ages for new episodes to come out. She's not going to make it consistent. She hasn't posted on YouTube in like 5 months. Anyway, so she posted her first podcast episode. And my first thing was like, I went on the podcast channel and I saw that had 2 million subscribers. I was like, did she just recently start a podcast and get 2 million subscribers on it? No, she basically rebranded her vlog channel that she hasn't posted on in ages into her podcast channel. So that's what's happening. Now, before we get to anything that's in the podcast episode, subscribe, hit that bell, like, comment for engagement. My social media will be in the description. Follow me on all of that and let's get into it. So she first mentions that she moved into David Dobrik's house, and I am always unnecessarily shocked by the conditions that people live in LA. And I don't mean regular people, I mean millionaires. I mean people that have a bunch of money. So David Dobrik is a multi-millionaire, like very, very rich, gives people cars for no reason. Just bought a $9 million house that he has to pay like $60,000 a year in like property tax. He has a lot of money, that's obvious. And his old house needs $400,000 worth of earthquake prevention, like stilts put up so the house doesn't fall apart. And you tell me he just lived there, didn't do it, didn't do the necessary like repairing to the house, and just risked it all. He was like, well, if one day the earthquake does come, we are going to fall down the cliff with our house. I'm not gonna do it, I'm not gonna fix it. Just let you guys know. And like him and all his friends just lived in that house, knowing that at any point, if an earthquake big enough came along, their house would fall apart. And he just decided to not do anything about it. Multi-millionaire David Dobrik decided to not almost kill his friends again. Like, that just seems like a reoccurring issue for David, is just putting his friends in danger for money. Like, whether it's for making money through vlogs or not spending money through fixing the house, either way, his friends' lives, health and safety get sacrificed every single time. I was gonna say it's fine, it's not. 2, a bunch of rats running around the house. Apparently rats the sizes of chinchillas, one or the other, big little furry things. Cockroaches, apparently they saw one was enough to call this a cockroach infestation. And then you also have Tana Mongeau in there. That was very mean. By cockroach, I mean, I've said this before, it's an analogy. Tana Mongeau, Keemstar. Jeffree Star? Cockroaches, in the sense, nothing could kill them. You know how they say cockroaches could survive a world war, they could survive a nuclear explosion? I call YouTube cockroaches people that could survive any cancellation, any scandal, any controversy, drama that you throw their way. They're going to get out of it just fine. They might lose a few subscribers, they might, piss some people off, but either way, they're going to continue to make money, they're going to continue to have a career, they're going to continue to prosper and have relationships. And there are some people who go through one tiny scandal and that's game over for them. So Tana Mongeau, definitely cockroach of the internet. So there's Tana Mongeau the cockroach and an actual physical cockroach running around the house. So that was those are in there. And it just blows my mind that David has all this money and he just lived in this house that just needed a bit of work, and he just chose not to do any of the work. He was like, look, this is the best you get, okay guys? And obviously there's the fact that there are fans showing up at the house. There were fans showing up at the house when David was living there, which is why he moved out, and now Tana Mongeau moved in and there's fans still coming over, so that's just not a great vibe. Anyway, she says she moved in and there's also not enough space. So what's mind-blowing to me as well is that she has a storage space larger than David Dobrik's old house. She said this on the podcast. She said her storage space is larger than his house. And she has to move all of that stuff from the storage space into the house. But obviously the whole house isn't a storage space because it's a house, not a storage space. So let's say if you have a 5x5 storage space and a 5x5 house, you fit more into the 5x5 storage space than the house because the house is utilized for living in, storage for storaging. So she'd actually have to have like 3 times her storage size in-house to be able to move all that stuff into the house, if that makes sense. She kept on saying that David Dobrik is her landlord, and people were saying, if you're buying the house, why is David your landlord? That doesn't make sense because you're the landlord, because you own the land. And she said, yeah, I decided to actually not buy the house. I was going to buy the house, I was about to go into escrow, and I decided when I saw the one cockroach that this wasn't going to work, so she's currently looking for other houses, but of course, Tana being Tana, she shows up to the house showings less than sober, so people tend to not want to give houses to people that just party every day, and like if they see her coming over looking like she just came back from a rave, they're going to assume that she's going to have raves in the house, and they just don't want to sell the house to her, so that happens. And then they talk about Chris Miles, who's her new boyfriend. I actually never mentioned this, it just skipped the stories. She had a boyfriend, she announced having a boyfriend, and then 4 hours later she said she's single, and then she had a boyfriend again about 4 hours later. They explain that situation. Then she talks about fighting, so you obviously the boxing matches and all of that stuff that's happening. She said that Gabby Hanna wanted to fight her. She said no because she knows that Gabby Hanna would win. That's obvious. Gabby Hanna would put most people in a chokehold, but also she has like so much pent up aggression and so much pent up like anger in her. I feel like if you watch Gabby Hanna's videos right now, you can tell that she's just pissed. She's pissed. So I feel like no one would be safe in a ring with Gabby Hanna because there's just so much aggression, so much violence, so much just like inner anger that is coming out. Like I watch her videos and I'm scared for my life. I'm glad she's in LA and I'm in London, and if I ever do go to LA, I'm staying incognito. I am not telling anyone. Twitter's not gonna know, Instagram's not gonna know, because if she finds me, it's game over for me. Lights out. Actually, she will put me in a chokehold. I can imagine having to run away from Gabby Hanna if she saw me on like Rodeo Drive or whatever. That's the only street I know in LA. I'd have to run for my life. Just wouldn't end well for me. Then she mentions Corinna. So Corinna was on the Impulsive podcast recently, and she basically spoke about Tana Mongeau and shaded her pretty badly. So she said that she would fight Tana Mongeau because she thinks that she would be quite sloppy, because she is quite sloppy, that's what she said, and that she would probably win. But she also says that she doesn't like Tana Mongeau, that she went on tour with her once and that she just doesn't have a good experience with Tana. She didn't go into full detail, but she basically just said that she doesn't really have a good experience with Tana, or just good vibes from Tana. Tana Mongeau then obviously in this podcast responds and says that she doesn't understand why Corinne doesn't like her, because the last interaction they had was when Tana was still like with Bella Thorne and Modson, and Corinna called her and was basically like, oh my god, hi, like I miss you, I bought a Rolex, let's hang out. And then after that, Tana Mongeau actually ghosted her because she just doesn't like Corinna that much. She says that, you know, she's not someone that she wants to hang out with, and that Tana Mongeau usually helped her with a lot of situations. She took her on tour, she would listen to her cry about like different situations that she was in. Like Tana says that she was always there for Corinna when Corinna needed the help. But she also said something really interesting, that when Corinna Kopf was being called out for being a Trumpy, Tana Mongeau came to her and was like, hey, I'll help you out, I'll do like, you know, PR, public relations, I'll help you out. And then Corinna said something along the lines of, I don't know why I have to apologize, because like, who cares what I am politically? And at that point, Tana Mongeau apparently just like peaced out. She was like, that to me sounded like she was a Trumpy, so I peaced out. Then they mentioned Khloe Kardashian. So recently, if you guys don't know, Tana Mongeau pissed off. I was gonna censor that one out. I don't know if that one's a bad word. I'll censor it in editing. Pissed off Khloe Kardashian because she tweeted that she had a party that she was going to, and that Tristan Thompson was one of the first people to show up at the party. And she tweets something like, Tristan just showed up at the party that I'm at. Where is True, his daughter? And obviously there's so many allegations with Tristan cheating on Khloe, that this was, you know, one of those. And then Khloe Kardashian liked a quote tweet to that tweet that was basically called Tana Mongeau. That was the gist of the tweet. And Tana explains this as, he showed up, it was Father's Day weekend. So she was like, me mentioning True was kind of relevant to the conversation because it was Father's Day weekend. Why are you going to Instagram baddie parties when you have a daughter at home that you should probably be spending Father's Day weekend with? Two, she says that a lot of his behavior that they saw at the party was, you know, weird for someone who's one, in a committed relationship to a father. And she said, you know, the stuff that he was doing made it look like, well, he was cheating on Khloe. But then we find out that at that point, Khloe and Tristan had been separated, so that wasn't the issue, but they just hadn't announced it. So anyway, Tana Mongeau extended her apology for bringing True into the situation and dragging Khloe, and that was that segment on Khloe Kardashian. I feel like the first episode is just tying up all the like loose ends and like figuring out any leftover scandals that Tana Mongeau is in, just be like, sorry to this person, I didn't mean to do this, oh this. I don't know what's going to happen in further episodes, but so far it's actually pretty enjoyable to watch. It's Tana Mongeau, the friend Brooke that she had drama with. Do you guys remember when they did like a video back and forth? Because Brooke apparently tried to steal Tana's boyfriend. And then Hunter, who is Tana's like on and off, they weren't really dating, but like, you know, like one of those, they're friends now anyway, and it's actually pretty enjoyable to watch. Then we had some James Charles shade. Okay, so she brings up how people abuse their power and exploit the power dynamic in Hollywood, but whether that's like producer and like budding actress or like music producer and a budding singer, like just like a bunch of power dynamics being abused in Hollywood. And Tana mentions how she was in one of those, well, she was in a bunch of those situations in Hollywood because she came up when she was like 15, 16. That's when her YouTube channel blew up, and then she moved to LA shortly after. So she was obviously in like a very vulnerable situation mentally, but also just through like the lack of experience in the scene. Like she didn't really know what was, like how things really went, like how negotiations went, contracts, so on and so forth. And then, you know, she recently did shade people like Shane Dawson and like just a bunch of YouTubers that were much older than her, definitely taking advantage of her being new to Hollywood and wanting to make friends. She then brings up James Charles, and she basically calls him out by name. She's like, look, James Charles dating fans and underage fans at that, wrong. She says that she would never date a fan, and that's something that would never come up about her. Like that's one of those scandals that just would not happen with her, because even if those fans are not underage, they're still fans of you, and there is a power dynamic because they are huge fans of you. They'll do a lot more than they would normally be comfortable with doing because it's you asking them to do it. But then on top of that, to add, you know, something else, they're underage, so they're also not developed fully, mentally, physically, in any other way. They're just not fully fleshed out adults, so that adds another layer of vulnerability to that whole situation. So she mentions that. She also mentions Addison Rae and her recent Trumpy situation. So obviously Nelk Boys film a vlog where they're at a boxing match. Addison Rae walks up to Trump and is like, hey, like I just needed to say hi to you, like I'm just so like happy to meet you. And they both shade her. They're like, look, why would you do that? Anyway, then Brooke and Hunter tried to play a different perspective of like, well, he is the president of the United States, well, was the president of the United States, like you might want to walk up to him. Like she didn't really say like, oh my god, I respect everything that you say. Like she was just like, hi, I'm happy to meet you, like I have to say hi to you. But Tana, on the other hand, said no, like I think based on the kind of person that he is, even coming up to him and being like, oh my god, I have to say hi to you is kind of disrespectful, and if she was there, she wouldn't have done that. So there's two perspectives for you guys. And then she finishes off the podcast episode with saying that she loves Def Noodles. So Def Noodles recently was suspended on Twitter for fake news, allegedly. Like his account got reported a bunch of times, and apparently it's suspended. No, not suspended. It's permanently, because suspended means not permanently. That's like temporary suspension. He's basically like taken off. Like his account doesn't exist on Twitter anymore. And he posts on Instagram now if you guys wanted to get your tea every day. And every time that Def Noodles tweeted about Tana Mongeau, she'd be like, you a scum, you spread fake news, slander, defamation. And now this podcast comes around and she goes, I love Def Noodles, I think his account is great. And then Brooke's like, oh my god, yeah, I respect the fact that he could like make a career out of this, it's incredible. And they like compliment him the whole time. So I'm just like, what were all the tweets at him about then? Like all this time that you called him a slanderous like piece of shit. Like now you're like, no, I love him, no, he's great, no, I love him. And they also did say the conspiracy theory that I had, which was someone higher up definitely didn't like that he was talking about them. Now I think Def Noodles mentioned how he thinks it's Addison Rae because he posted some stuff that her team was trying to scrub off the internet. For example, her being really entitled and acting like, you know, when she was on 500,000 followers, she tried to get like a bunch of favors in clubs, but she wasn't just trying to get favors, she was like actively being like, why would you not give this to me? I have 500,000 followers and everyone's coming up to me to take pictures of me, like I'm so famous, like give me stuff. And he said that her team was trying to scrub that off the internet and he kept on posting it, so he thinks maybe it's Addison Rae. Some people think it's Gabby Hanna. He kept on posting her like Patreon content, so it could be Gabby Hanna, it could be, who else was he going hard against? James Charles. James Charles recently mentioned him in the An Open Conversation video about spreading false information, defamation, slander, all of those things. So it could be James Charles. I definitely think someone higher up tried to get rid of him and basically just had him like reported and taken down. Like that's what I think happened. And yeah, so that's the first episode of Tana Mongeau's podcast. I think we got a lot of shade, a lot of tea. I want to see further episodes. I want to see what she does. I want her to bring on some people. Like I want, you know, Jake Paul to come on because that's toxic. And I'm a big avid watcher of like reality TV drama, and this is like reality TV drama levels for me. I want to talk about that, whatever happened there. I want her to bring on just anyone that she's beefing with. I think it's just like good, trashy reality TV drama that I'm like, it's just mind-numbingly dumb, but also like I just love watching it. So that's that for that. If you guys enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up, comment down below, anything, comment down below, and subscribe to post videos every time something happens. So hit that bell, be notified when that's happening. Social media links and other links in the description. I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.